A good Zimmer. This is Gemara in Shekalim Daf Yud Dalid. Hope everyone had a beautiful Yontif as we conclude Mesech Shekalim, moving into the final week. All the shirim for this month, the month of Nisan, has been sponsored by the Grun family, the Nishmas Chaim Mordechai ben Naftali Tzvi. The learning of the entire Chabura should be a tremendous choszi l'nishmasai. Of course, our Chelim men bevega Chaim b'sar shalom tzivim reizis sar bas gnendel Shaul ben Chayit b'asim b's Chayisay Yisrael ben Mindel Leis b'peres t'shavlei Sham bas Navi Shavi v'Rachad v'Odom v'Nitriva Shmuel ben Tilo dinim b'Chan reizim b'Chay b'Asina l'Bracha v'Tavim v'Tadina Edom b'Ashina min l'Bracha Simcha Tovia Ben Avigail Fashas even figured very Mechilis Verna Sele Huva Menachem Mendel ben Toba B'Sei Shar Chali Yisrael Zos Chashiduch Vataleya Basita Menachem Mendel ben Elisheva. We pick it up in the bottom of Yud Gimel and Beis, and the Gemaras here are a bit easier, a bit more Agadata. We're going through the 15 different appointees, different positions of the Beis Hamikdash, and we said that Ben Achia was appointed for something about stomach disorders, stomach issues. It says the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom of Yud Gimel and Beis. Why did the Kahanim have stomach issues that they need to have a special person to help them? They would walk barefoot on the floor, which was cold. And they would eat meat and drink water. They would come to intestinal issues, and therefore and this person Ben Achia, he knew and he knew which one was good for the intestines, and which one would be bad for the intestines, and that was his job. We continue then. Nechumya would dig the ditches. Says the Gemara, last line in the Gimel Beis, he would dig he would dig ditches in caves of the Yada, and he knew as you move along to Yudalid Amar Aleph, he knew which stone had cold water underneath it, and which stone had hot areas underneath it, and he knew how deep the stone extended, and that was his chachma, his wisdom, so he was able to take the appropriate ditches. Amar Rav Eliezer umeis b'noi b'tzama. And this person, this wonderful Nechunya, his son died in thirst, which of course is not to call it irony. We're talking about the judgment of God, as we'll see. But the point of these stories are that even though his entire job, his entire purpose on this world was making irrigational canals, yet his son was stricken with the similar disease. He died from thirst. And Amar Rav Chanina, Mandam Rachmana Vatrin, if someone says that God is a Vatrin, that Hashem doesn't care about our actions, his intestines should be relaxed, meaning he'll have stomach issues. Rather, Hashem is slow to anger, but ultimately he's going to accept and he's going to collect his dues, meaning someone has any Averas, and obviously it's Nechunya, there was some Avera on his level, and that's why his son unfortunately died such a terrible death. Amar Rav Achik says in the Torah, now this is obviously a continuation of the previous that which we just said, that his surroundings, God's surroundings, this Arama'id, are very, very turbulent, very shooken up. What does that mean? That Hashem is careful with the Chasidim, with the Sadiqim, one little hair's breadth. That's not the reason. Ella, you know what the Makar is? Min Madach Siv, and that which it says. V'noirahu, and he is awesome al kol svivav, on all his surroundings. And Moira al karevav, his fear, his awe is upon all those who are near him. Yoisim min archaikim, more than those who are far from him. Which obviously we know that the concept here is that Hashem purges them and cleanses us on this world and different tzaddikim, so that they get the reward in the next world, and therefore those who are closer are judged with a finer judgment. Rav Chagai b'shem Shmuel bar Nachman Ma'isa is a similar story to the above. There was a certain pious man who dug ditches, pits, and vaults, different water areas for the passers-by. All the people, this was his job. His own daughter was going to her chasna b'shatva nahar, and the river swept her away. Everyone was crying, and everyone tried to console this man. Everyone tried to console him on the terrible death of his daughter who was swept away on the way to her wedding. And he would not accept, and he would not be consoled. Oh, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair came to Negabei Boy Menachem and he also wanted to console him. And he didn't want to accept it. What? You're a righteous person. Why aren't you accepting it? True, God has his ways, but you have to accept the condolences and you have to move on. So Amrule, they said to him, Rabbi, they told Pinchas ben Yair, this was the story, this is what happened. I'm sorry, this was this person's profession that he used to help people. And this is what happened like. Omar, so Pinchas ben Yair, a little bit different than the previous story, said, is it possible that this person honors God with water? He's going to be cut down, his daughter's going to be killed with water, miyad. Nofla havara be'ir. There was a call. There was a rumor. Everyone heard in the city that Baal beat that man, the daughter of that man, she is alive and well. She just came home. How? It's the Amri. There was a branch she was able to hold on, and the river swept underneath her, but she was saved. There's the Amri Malach Yarad Kedemus of Pinchas ben Yair Batil. There was a Malach in the image of Pinchas ben Yair and saved her. And again, obviously, each story difficult to understand, but that's what we're seeing over here. It comes off the job in the Beis Hamikdash of digging ditches. Two interesting stories of different Hasidim, we'll call them, that their children unfortunately died, or almost died, we could call it, a similar death to their profession. Says the Gemara, Gevine Kruz. Gevine was the announcer. What did he announce? Sheyamachar is Beis Hamikdash. You announced the Beis Hamikdash, Maya Oimer. Ma hoya oimer. He would announce in the Beis Hamikdash. What did he say? He said, Akayhanim, the Ganim should stand up, Lavoita for their service, Leviim to Duchanam, and Leviim for their stations, Yisrael Ma'amadam. The Leviim go up to the platform, and the Yisraels go to their area. Grievous HaMelech. Shama, Koiloi, Arches, Barsais, and Grievous HaMelech gave testimony that he heard the voice of this cross, of this announcer, 8 Barsais, very far distance. Menasla Matanas Harbe, and he gave him many gifts. He has such an ability to project his voice and announce the Beis Hamikdash. Ben Gever, Alni Shalom. The next job was Ben Gever, that he used to close the gates. Tirgum says the Gemara, Rav Kumi de Beis Rav Shila, Kara Gavra Ichras Kruza. They announced, the Meturgamum explained that Kara Kavra Ivris Kruza. The man called and proclaimed his proclamation. What's going on over here? It's a bit of a Hakdama to Yuma, which is coming up next. Yuma Daf Chav Beis discusses that at what time the first Avodah in Beis Hamikdash was done, the Chumas Hadesh and the clearing away of the ashes. When was that done? What was the time? So the Gemara over there calls it Krus Gever. The same word Gever as our person Ben Gever. So the Gemara now goes into that word. What does the word Gever mean? So the Gemara quotes from the Gemara over there that what it means is that you used to get up and announce it's time. It's time to Karoi Achris Karuz. I'm sorry. He would proclaim the proclamation. That was the time of the Karban Tamid, and that's the first Shita. When was the time that the Shumas Hadeshin occurred? Amar Loi, Amar Kra, Tarnagayla. And the Torah, if you're right, the Torah should have said Amar Kra, Tarnagayla. It should have said Tarnagayla, not Tarnagol. Vatin Ben Gever, and they called him Ben Gever. Rather, says the Gemara, it's Chalamema Bar Tarnagal Ta. Rather, it must mean. No, I'm sorry, I read that incorrectly. Let's go back a second. Amrulay, they said to him one more time. Amar lei emar kra tarnagayla. Say that the pasuk means tarnagayla, meaning it doesn't mean at the time of Karban Tamid. It means at the time of the tarnagal. What's the time of the tarnagal? The time when the rooster wakes up in the morning. So Amar la. So you respond to him, no. Vatina ben gever. It says ben gever is chol meimar bar tarnagal la. And therefore, that's the machlekes of here. What was the time of the Chumas Hadeshen? Which, of course, we'll see more in a few weeks when we get to the sugya in Yuma. Says the Gemara, Ben Babi ala Pkiya. Ben Babi was in charge of the wicks. What would he do? He would adjust the wicks in the Beis Hamikdash for the Menorah. Rav Yasi all Kufra. Rav Yasi went to a place called Kufra. He wanted to appoint different people to be in charge of this city, and they would not accept that which he said. So Rav Yasi went and said to them, but it says in our Mishnah, Ben Babi al Pkiya, that Babi was in charge of the wicks. This person in the Mishnah, he was appointed over the wicks. And he was merited to be appointed with the Gdolei Adar. So you shall let me make the appointments in your city, because you can get even a greater reward. Bring your raya from even a mundane job of cutting the wicks. Certainly someone who's in charge of other people's affairs. Says the Gemara further, Ben Arzal Sil. On the symbol, which we learned in the Mishnah, either meant the symbol or it meant different musical instruments. about 15 lines from where the lines get a bit wide. God, like we learned over there, Heinef, Haskan, the skan waved Bisudarin with flags. When he waved the flags, he would slam the cymbals as the Avaida in the Beis Hamikdash got underway. Hogris ben Levi al-Ashir was appointed over the singing. Amr Avachani Ima Yisira had a beautiful voice. Amr Allah, they sent him al Hogris ben Levi. He was able to sing his voice in the song. When you put his thumb in his mouth, whatever that means, different musical instruments will come out, musical notes. And everyone would jump back to the power and the beauty of his voice. That was Hogras ben Levi, his job of singing. And we continue, Beis Karmel Amais Lechem upon him. He was in charge of the Lechem upon him, the 12 showbreads on the Shulchan. Beis Karmel Yabekim Amais Lechem upon him, a name that we've seen. Beis Karmel was in charge of the Lechem upon him, Ubridiyasai, and they're putting it into the oven and they're taking it out, which both of them were tremendous Chachma, as we'll see, V'loratz Lamed, and they didn't want to teach anyone else how to do this job. The reason why it was tremendous Chachma is because the mold that the breads went in were shaped a bit like a U. So to get that into the oven and to get it out of the oven and get it out of the mold were tremendous chachma. This Beis Garmu did not want to tell anyone how to do it. The Chachamim sent and brought different crafts in Alexandria. They knew how to do it as well. But they did not know how to take out the bread. They only knew how to put it in. Beis Karmu, what's the difference? They would fire in the inside, and they would remove it when the fire was on the outside. And the bread would never spoil. We know one of the miracles was the bread stayed from week to week. But these wise men, these craftsmen of Alexandria, and the bread would spoil. The Chachamim heard what was going on. Amru, they said, Hashem created everything for His sake. Everything Hashem created for His own sake. So what happened? They sent to the family of Beis Karmu and they asked them, you have to teach us how to do it. They didn't want to come until they doubled their wages. Originally they took 12 mana and then they took 24 mana, the first wide line. Rav Yehuda Merchavdal Noitim and Aslam Mem Chas, they gave them 48. Amr Lam Nebayin Atam Reitzin Lamed. So he said, I don't understand. Why aren't you telling us how to do it? We have to know how to make the Lech Labanim. Amr Lahem. So they responded, they said, we have a tradition that this Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. So we don't want to teach anyone else. Why? We're nervous that people know how to make these Lech Labanim. Eventually, oh God forbid, be used as service for an idol. But they announced them for this family Beis Karmu for praise. No one ever made such a bread. They never made even a bread similar to it. So no one would think that they were ever eating from the Lechem HaPanim. Now we continue after Lechem HaPanim was the Ketayres. The family of Atinas, they were commanded on the Ketayres. They knew how to compound the Ketayres with Malas Ha'ashan, and the secret ingredient, a grass, was called Mala Ha'ashan. That was a unique item that no one knew what it was. So this family of Beis Haftinas, they knew. And they also didn't want to tell anyone about it. Again, similar story. They brought craftsmen from Alexandria. But again, they didn't know the secret ingredient of Mala Ha'ashan. When they would light the Ketayres, it would go straight up the cloud of smoke like a stick. And then it would go around and come back. It would spread out and then come down. But these craftsmen of Alexandria, the smoke, like a normal fire, would just dissipate immediately. We see how wonderful God is. Everything was created for His own glory. The previous pasuk. They said, you have to teach about the Ketayres. They don't want to watch Similar story. And they gave them 48 mana. What's going on? Why do you want to teach us how to make the Ketores? They responded, the base of Israel will be destroyed. We don't want to teach anyone else. Why not? They have a desire. We don't want them, God forbid, to use it as idol worship. They said this base of Tinus was a fabulous family. For all generations, people from the base of Tinus family never put on perfume because they didn't want anyone to suspect. Perhaps they're using the ingredients of the Ketores, and not only that, if a male from this family married a woman from somewhere else, they made a stipulation in the wedding. You're not allowed to wear perfume. We don't want people to say that they're using the ingredients of the Ketores to smell good. Like a pasuk in Alima that we've seen already. We have to be so careful that which people say about us. One time, I was standing in Yerushalayim, but I found a child from this family of Tina, 6 lines before the very white lines on Yudalam and Aleph. I said to him, what family are you from? The family of Tina is Lefish and his the rabbis they want to increase their own honor and decrease the honor of God. Their own honor was decreased. This Rabu and the kvod of heaven was increased. Amar Rav Akiva, Sochli Shimon ben Luga. Shimon ben Luga told me, one time he was picking grass. And he was picking with a certain child. And I saw the child was crying. I saw the child was laughing. Why are you laughing? Because my father's house, the honor. That's why you're crying. Why are you laughing? The honor that tzaddikim are going to get lost in Lavai. 2 lines on the bottom of the Amid. What did you see? Ma'alas Ashan. He saw this wonderful grass and no one knew what it was. This Ma'alas Ashan. So he said to him, my child, teach me. Tell me what it is. Show me it. Hera Li showed it to him. Amar Li, Rabbi Misairis Biadi. I have a Messiah in my family. I can't show it to anyone. That's the end of that story, and he didn't show him that grass. I met a family, a member of Beis Avtinos, and he had a scroll listing all the ingredients, all the different herbs of the Ketores. And he said, Rebbe, my family members used to be very discreet, meaning that's why they made this scroll. The Hayu was returned over to Yedalim Abeis, Maisinas and Megillah Azais. They would give over this scroll. They would give over Halalu Maisinas and Megillah Azais. Ilu v'achshav nowadays. Sheina Beis Amin Emanim. They're no longer trustworthy. Halachas Megillah. You take this scroll. He give it to Rabbi Yochanan Nuri to safekeep the scroll. Halachas Megillah. Be careful with it. Shabasi v'Artzisia Dvarim L'Nei Rabbi Kiva. When they came and told this story in front of Rabbi Kiva, Zol Gueinav Demais. He started crying. No longer do we have to say this family was not such a good family. We see how careful they were hiding the secrets of the Ketores. Says the Gemara, before concluding this Mishnah, Elazar was on the Pareiches, Al Pareiches Shemimuna, Al Argei Pareiches, the weavers. Pinchas HaMalbish, Shemalbish Big Dekuni, you addressed the Kahanim Gedolim Gedolah. There was a certain Kain that was dressed with the military officer. He was dressed with a military officer, he dressed the military officer. And the officer gave him 8 golden coins, and some say gave him 12 golden coins, just showing us what the wonderful job is to get someone dressed, that you would pay so much money. That was the job of the family of Pinchas, to dress like Kehanim Gedolim. Says the Mishnah, Yudalem Beis, Ein Peichsim Shiva Marchin. There is no less than 7 supervisors, Shleshik Gizbarim, and 3 treasurers. Vein Oisid Shrara Al Tzibur. We never put an appointee, a financial authority over the congregation. Pachos Mishtayim. There's always 2 people. Chutz Ben Achia Shal Choli Mayim. Ben Achia was on the intestinal issues. Velazar Shal Aproich Hashezik Kiblu Roy V'Tzibur Leim. Those 2 jobs they accepted, but everything else you always have a minimum of 2 people. Says the Gemara, Ein Peichsim Gimel Gizbarim Mizayin Ar Mechaylin. There's never less than 3 treasurers and 7 supervisors. Tana, we learned in the Mishnei Katalikin. There are always 2 overseers on top of the supervisors. So there are 7 supervisors with 2 on top of them. Hadou Dechsev, it says in the Pasuk Yechiel Vayizyahu V'Nachas, Yechiel and Izyahu and Nachas. Those were the 3. They are Gizbarim. They were the treasures. V'Ashael V'Yirmiyos V'Yizbad I'm sorry. V'Asal V'Rimos V'Yizavad V'Eliel V'Yismachayu Ve'Umachas U'Benayahu Armachaylim. They were the supervisors. Begidim Yad Konanya Shimi Achav. They were the officers serving under these 2 overseers, which were who? Konanya and Shimi, his brother. Katzlikin. They were the overseers. B'Mifkad Chizkiyo. They were appointed by Chizkiyo, Amelech, Vaziro, Nagid, and Azaryahu, the Nagid, Bisa Lakim, the commissioner of the house of Hashem, Amelech HaKoyin Gadol. That's the end of those jobs. Again, 2 with 7 and 3. When they would sign, doesn't necessarily mean sign, it means when they would seal the money in the treasury. What was the process? Like Gizbar Chaisim, the Gizbar, the treasurer would sign. And he would give it over to the Amarkel, to the supervisor. Amarkel Chaisim and also Katzlikin to the overseer. Katzlikin Chaisim and also Chaisim and also Melech. And then the same thing in reverse. Whenever they opened up the treasure vaults, first the king would sign. Then the overseer the supervisor. Then finally Gizbar and the Gizbar would deal with the money. Says the Gemara, we never give a job less than 2 people. Where do we learn this out from? It says and they, meaning the plural, showing us that whenever you're dealing with something in public, you always need to have 2 people in charge. Now we continue dealing with Moshe Rabbeinu. Where did Moshe Rabbeinu become wealthy? First opinion says it was from the Pseilis, the fragments of the Luchais. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu got his wealth. The 7 different pasuk says, I'm sorry, this is the Raya, Psal Lecha. That the fragments are going to be for you, Moshe Rabbeinu had a quarry of fine gems and stones inside his tent. That's how we got rich. That they gazed after Moshe until he came into his tent. Why were they looking at Moshe Rabbeinu as he went into the tent? They said to Moshe Rabbeinu, it's incredible, as you see how they can talk about Moshe Rabbeinu this way. Look at his thick thighs. Look at his plump legs. Look at his fatty flesh. Where does Moshe Rabbeinu get all this from? He's eating from the Jews. He's drinking from the Jews. All the money he has is embezzled from the Jews. Says no. They were standing outside saying, wow, what a tremendous chos, we could only get a little bit closer to Moshe Rabbeinu. So there are 2 opinions where Moshe Rabbeinu's wealth came from, and 2 opinions what the people were staring at Moshe Rabbeinu for. Says the Mishnah, this is the final Mishnah. No, it is not. I'm sorry. Halacha Gimel, it says the Mishnah. There were 4 seals, tokens in the Beis HaMikdash, and they said in these tokens, Egel, Zachar, Gedi, and Chayte. It said to them, Egel, calf, Gedi, ram. I'm sorry, Egel, Zachar is a ram, Gedi is a kid, and Chayte is a sinner. And let's just take note that just says Chayte referring to one sinner. It's talking about the Mitzayra, but doesn't differentiate what level of wealth the Mitzayra has. Whereas Ben Azai, the second opinion, comes along in Aimer, hey, there were 5 different Chaysamai, saw you. Varmai is it was written in Armenian, Egel Dechar Gedi, Chayte Dal, Chayte Asher. So the difference in Ben Azai and the first opinion is that it says Chayte Dal, Chayte Asher, the rich sinner and the poor sinner is referring to the Mitzayra, rich and poor, and the Gemara will elaborate on this fact. Egel Meshamish Now the Gemara explains that the egel, the calf, was used in nischei bakar, was used with the nisachim of cattle. Gedalim uketanim zacharim unekevos. Large, small, female, male. Gedim misham eishim nischei asayim. The goats, the kids, would be used with the nisachim, the pourings of the flock, the sheep and the goats. Gedalim uketanim zacharim unekevos. Chotz. Mishal Elim, except for the rams, Ayel Misham Shem Nischei Elim, there was a separate libation, separate pouring in the Mizbeach for the rams, Bilvat. Choyte Misham Shem Nischei Shalosh Behemais, a Choyte, who is referring to a sinner, which we said before is referring to the Mitzaira, uses 3 animals for his Tzairas, which we'll see more in the Gemara. Now the Mishnah explains what exactly happened. Shal Mitzaira, I'm sorry. Mishu Mevakish Nesachim. Someone who needed Nesachim needed to pour wine in the Mizbech. Went to Yechanan, who was in charge of the Chaysamas. He gave him money, and he got a token. He went to the person named Achia, who was in charge of the pouring. So we gave him the token, and he got whatever libations, pourings he needed. In the evening, so Achia met Yochanan, Achia Moises Chaysamas, Umachabel connect the mice, and they checks and balances. They put the coins next to how much wine and oil were given. And if there's not enough, then Yochanan had to pay off. And then Hektish would gain. Why is similar to what we saw 2 days ago? Hektish always gets on the upper hand. If someone lost his token, they wait until the evening. Now let's say when they did the checks and balances, they realized, wait, there's one amount missing. So nice and light, they would give it to the one who lost his coin. Nice and light, he would lose out. And not only was that written on the coins, but the coins also had the exact day written on them in order to make sure that no one would deceive and steal from the Beis Hamikdash, which we'll see. Let's just begin. The Gemara says, the Gemara, maybe, according to Ben Azai, why was there a separate token, right? We started the Mishnah, we said Tanakama said there's 4, Ben Azai said there's 5. What was the 5th? Because the poor sinner and the rich sinner, the Mitzayra, the 2 types of Mitzayras. Says the Gemara, but according to Ben Azai, who Ben Azai held that there was this 5th coin, so what do you differentiate? Says the Gemara, Lugai imai. The poor sinner, the poor Mitzayra would bring in his own lug of wine. He did not have to buy it from the Beis HaMikdash. Bram Kirabanan, maybe Gedi. Again, so according to Ben Azai, I'm sorry, one more time. Actually, you know what? I think we're just going to start this tomorrow, Mirza Hashem.